Disclaimer, classes in Trove are built very much the same, so if you have watched any of my other build guides, then there is quite a lot of things that will repeat itself, but you can bypass those parts by the timestamps in the description. Also, my guides are always updated, so if I was to stop doing YouTube, those guides would go away. No misinformation will be out there, and I will always update my videos/guides if something major happens to the game content. If something minor changes, it will be in the description. Hello guys, Wahoo here, back on another video. This time around, we are doing a build guide for
Candy Barbarian.
Yeah, so the intro is going to be very much the same as if you've seen it before. You can skip ahead to maybe the demo or something else. But yes, the intro is going to be different just with which class we are going to do. Basically just telling you, if this is your first time watching one of these build guides, what you can expect from the video. So as you can see right here, I did make it into chapters, also indicated by timestamps, which is in the description or on the video. And first we are going to start with a 5-minute demo, just showcasing the class, what abilities do it have. Kind of just showing off, not going into detail what they basically do, but just showing them off, and maybe that will interest you at making one of these classes one of your mains. After that, we are going to do a quick look at overall stats for every single class. So for this class that you're watching right here, we're going to do it for that one, and also in general we are going to talk about stats. For example, like crit hit and crit damage. That's going to be some generalization right there. And then we are going to move into gear and everything there's on the gear page. That is, of course, banners, allies, head, face, weapon, and also rings and food, emblems, flasks, so on, so on. Everything there is in the gear page. We are going to go over that one as well. Then we are going to cover gems. Mostly we're going to cover the empowered gems, of course. We're also going to talk a little bit about the smaller ones, but mostly we are going to go into the big empowered ones, so the big gems, that is. And then for lastly, of course, as you can see right here on the screen, we're also going to talk about the star chart, or the talent tree as I basically call it. So that's what the intro was all about, just letting you know what the chapters are and how it is going to work with the timestamp. So you can skip ahead if there's something you already watched. You can skip ahead to doing that, or you can basically watch it all if you feel like you want to do that. But that was the intro. Now we can jump into the demo. So let's take a deeper dive into the Candy Barbarian. But before we do that, I do want to say that my nose is stuffed, so if I sound a little bit different than I usually am, or I'm taking a lot of breaks, is because I'm not breathing too well, because it's all stuffed up in my nose. I just have a little bit of a cold, so it's nothing major, but just so you know. And I do want to get this video out to you guys tomorrow, as it's Friday, and I kind of have now, it's kind of like all the videos are coming out on Fridays. But we are taking a deeper dive into the Candy Barbarian, and saying before we kind of start, the Candy Barb is a physical damage character. If you didn't know already, I will talk about that when we talk about the stats. But I also want to say that this is more of a dungeon clearer farming character. It's not really a bosser. You can use it kind of for like a support class, because it does have the big cone here, the big ice cone, and that actually gives the gumdrops and the healing candy for your allies as well. I don't know what the range are, but I'm pretty sure you gotta be kind of close to do it. You can't be Max Rand Shadow Hunter or something like that to get yourself the buff from this one. But basically what the candy or the gumdrop is that the gumdrop is that increases your attack speed, your movement speed, and your physical damage as well. And if you are a magic damage user, of course, you know, physical damage is not going to benefit you. The attack speed is not many classes that actually, or the top classes that actually benefit from attack speed either. So it's not really that big of a thing to have it as a support. You can go some cooldown reduction if you want to get that closer, the cone there to be lower, but no, I wouldn't really go cooldown reduction to do so. It's more of a a farming class. And again, the gumdrops, that's the passive. So when you do attack, you get these gumdrops, and the swirling here, the Villa's swirl, is the one you do, like you do the spin here, and that's the one that's actually going to give you the healing drops as well. For only himself though, it's only when you use your ultimate that it is going to give you the healing candy and the gumdrops for your allies as well. And again, the range could be quite small. It is a melee class, so it's probably only benefiting those, but usually melee classes have benefit more from attack speed and such, and also most attack or physical damage characters are melee as well. So we got, of course, also the #1 ability, and that is the leaps to the enemies. That's a jump that you can do if you have the class gem, is that it does the whole suction around the Candy Barb, so it kind of sucks all the enemies up. So the class gem is quite necessary for the class as well. We'll talk more about the class gem when we get to the class or the gem tab we have. So again, gumdrops, the swirl that heals you, and also the sugar crash, as it says, and then basically afterwards it does the jump. So basically you can hold down the button and it's gonna suck up all the enemies, and then you do a jump afterwards. So yeah, I think it's just too more to gather it, but if you hold it down, it basically sucks everything in. So that's pretty awesome indeed as well. So let's talk about the subclasses that we can use. I'm using the Knight subclass because I want those extra flash charges. We'll talk more about the flash when we get on further, but you can basically use whatever subclass you want. The Lunar Lancer one is pretty nice as well. Of course, you can use your own, but they're pretty nice, all of them. There's not a specific one that does a lot of things. For the Candy Barb, you can mess around with it, and also in the future it might change, whatever it's going to be. Like some of the subclasses do change when we do have a class rework, so it might change in the future. Also, the Knight one might be changing in the future as well. I always say to people, use the one you has the most levels on, or the most power rank on. Use whatever that has the most. And if you have two, for example, let's take the Ice Age one here and the Knight, and if they're at the same level and they're same power rank and such, just use the one you feel like. If you look at the numbers down here, magic damage, and of course, again, the Candy Barb is a physical damage character, then you should probably look into just getting the flash charges. Even you might not use a flask very often, but at least the magic damage is not that beneficial for you at all. If it doesn't benefit you at all, actually. So yeah, you can take whatever you basically want, but a Knight is really good. Lunar Lancer could be a thing, but just look at whatever you got, and then when you get it, all the classes to level 30 and has a bunch of power rank on all of them, then sure, you should definitely go in and take the one that actually benefits you the very most. And usually, like I said, again, Knight or Lunar Lancer. maybe some magic find over here, or like the Solarian or whatever. The light stat is pretty nice as well. Talking about stats, let's jump into those before we head into all our gear, and let's talk about the stats that you should be looking out for. So first of all, let's talk about critical hit, because critical hit is critical. That was not really much of a pun, but you want to hit not 170%. That's way too much. You want to hit that sweet spot of 100%. So 100% as close as you can get to it. Better a little bit over than a little bit under, because if you are at 100%, let's say you are just under the mark 100%, all your hits are going to be critical, and then critical damage just gets absolutely amazing. Basically, if you have, let's say 10% critical hit, like there's only 10% of the time that your hits are going to be crits, that means that your critical damage is absolutely garbage. So the better it's over, not 70% over, but it's because I haven't optimized this character. It's not really necessary for the content that I do on this class. If I do hard content, I use my main, which is my Dracolite, right? But you want to look for as much physical damage as you can. A little bit of energy regen is pretty nice as well. You don't want to go overboard with this. Don't really get it on your gear, depending on your gear, and also on like how many dragons you have, and so on and so on. So just have a nice amount. You can basically just feel out how much you feel like you want to add to it. You can see I have 130, and I can do about 3 spins of this one. This is your main attack you're gonna do. Of course, your ultimate also does some damage, you know, but usually it's just auto attacking and spinning, because that's also where you get the healing. And you know, the ultimate has a pretty long cooldown as well. You don't really need to gather up the enemies when you're just playing by yourself, but you know, the Candy Barb is more of a farming class and not very much of a bosser. Again, you can be a support, but I would just be, there's other classes that outshine it for doing boss damage as well. So I was playing a little bit around stability. If you look at this one, so I've been playing a little bit around that, but I didn't really feel like it was, something. But I'll show you guys as well on the gear when we get over to that I do have stability, but I'll talk about which stats you really should be looking for. Attack speed, you can get that as well if you want to, but it's not really something you're going to be absolutely crazy going with. You do get, attack speed from this one. You also get extra physical damage, which is nice, but you also get movement speed. So movement speed is, I feel like movement speed is just superior when you are playing a melee class, depending on what class, of course, it is. But usually movement speed is just superior in many ways. But of course, movement speed is not offensive damage. So sometimes I tell people, if they're missing damage, maybe go some attack speed instead of going, of course, with the movement speed, giving that you are getting, just basically getting as much critical damage as you can, as much physical damage as you can, and also as much light as you can. And then basically energy regen, movement speed, and attack speed is kind of a secondary, and you'll get more and more of these stats when you get more and more dragons, acquire more and more dragons. These are some of the most main stats you get from some of the dragons here as well. There's a few, I think there's 1 or 2 that gives light, so that's not really where you're gonna get your light from. That's of course from your gear and from your gems and from your mastery as well, your gear mastery as well. But I've been playing around with stability. I didn't really like it, so we'll talk about that when we get to that. But basically, again, physical damage as much as you can, a little bit of energy regen, a little bit of movement speed, a little bit of attack speed, and then of course hit that sweet spot of 100% critical hit, and then as much critical damage as you can get, and as much light as you can get as well. So that's the stats. So let's jump into the gear. First of all, starting with the hat here. Again, I went with movement speed and stability and critical damage. The stability is totally your choice, whatever you want here. I again went with either you want with the attack speed or you want to go with the movement speed. That's really up to you. I don't really feel like the Candy Barb needs it, especially when you acquire a bunch of dragons and you also get the gumdrop and such. I don't really feel it, but again, you also get movement speed, so I guess it's movement speed or whatever. So if you end up with attack speed or you end up with movement speed, just go with whatever speed you want to. If you want to move fast or you want to shoot fast, or like hit fast, I guess. And stability is also something you can randomly, whatever you get. But the critical damage is it's just a thing you need. It doesn't matter what the other stats are, just get the critical damage. That is very important. So if it doesn't have that, you should go to roll for that at least. And you can see the same thing I went for with the melee weapon. Again, critical damage, stability, and movement speed. Again, I would probably use something else. I could use some attack speed here, but I'm really sure you can get that as well with the movement speed when you go for that. So I think you can choose between one or the other speed. I can't remember, but if, you can look that up if which one is going to be the one. But then we go to the face, and here the stats are a little bit more bound. Again, you can go with attack speed or movement speed on the third stat there. On the fourth stat, you have to go with the physical damage. There's no, like, sure, if you want to be a tank and you want to go full, health stuff, you can 100% go that if you really want to, but there's really no tanking in Trove, so I don't really know why you would go, either, physical damage, but either max health percentage or just flat max health. Those are the stats you could go for here instead of the stability if you want to be a little more tanky, but the candy barb is not really used as a tank, but it's probably people's favorite choice for a tank if they were to go that, but you really don't gather things up very much. There could be some crazy scenarios, and yeah, never say never, right? But again, physical damage and critical damage is absolutely necessary. That's no doubt about it. You need to have those two. There's no question about that. Then we got the ring. You of course want a crystal ring here with physical damage. I went with magic find, but I do want to say that you maybe want to go with some energy regen here. That could be actually pretty nice to go. So you get a bunch of it, or not a bunch of it, but a quite decent amount of it from dragons. But I think that the ring is the best choice, is this one, or critical hit if you're really missing that 100% there. There could be a choice, you can switch it. It's a lot easier to switch a ring than it actually switch, gym stats around and such. So it's just a lot easier to do so as well. This ring does have a hidden effect, as you can see down there. It has spin to win, and the spin to win is actually not terrible. There's many of these hidden effects that are just terrible and not necessary. It's not necessary either, but it does do kind of a nice little thing. But what it does is that when you basically do your spin, you can see I slow down. If I walk, and I do a spin, you can see I slow down a little bit. But actually, when you have the spin to win effect on, you don't get slowed down anymore. So it's pretty awesome to do so as well. So you basically have your movement speed. That also helps with all of these movement speed. It still does. It's only a percentage you get slowed down. So having more movement speed actually, makes you slow down less. So you can chase those enemies a little bit easier. But the spin to win effect, it makes it so you don't slow down anymore, which is pretty nice to have. But I don't really recommend hidden effects that much because it's just random which ones you're gonna get. And if you get a ring, for example, a crystal 4 ring, right? And basically, let's say you get a crystal 1 ring with this one with spin to win on it, as I have, but I get a crystal 4 ring for the candy barb. No matter what the hidden effects is on the crystal 4 ring, I will always use the crystal 4 ring, no matter what other stats it has or whatever. But as long as it's a crystal 4 ring, it's always going to have that physical damage I'm looking for, and also that light. And the third stat doesn't really matter too much. Like 1 versus 4, always choose the 4, no matter hidden. But if you do get, like, say, physical damage, well, you're always going to get physical damage and light. But if you do get, like, any regen or magic find or, maybe jumps even, and you get the hidden effect spin to win, you got basically that's the OP ring you can get. That's the best ring you can get, right? But don't worry about the hidden effects. Just worry about what level the ring is, because you really want to get that 4 one. It's just so much more light and so much more physical damage you are going to get. For banner, you want to do 10 banner, of course, that from Leviathans, and you want to get one with physical damage on it as well, or you craft one with physical damage on it, and you can basically go whatever stat you want. It's not that super important, but maybe flash charges could be a thing. So it's really up to you. There's a bunch of it. There's no wrong choice in the banners. If you really want to min-max, you can go into whatever you feel like is stat you need, like movement speed, if you really want to gather up some stuff really quickly. But that's just super min-maxing, and I don't really want to go into that too difficult. Like it's very it's like really min-max, and it doesn't really matter too much. So that's why I'm not really going into the very. It's really what for you to. I wouldn't say for you to test out, for that doesn't matter. But whatever you feel like is your choice, and I just want to make sure that you know that the choices you make around which banner you're going to use is totally okay, and it's really a personal choice, at least how I feel it is. Then we got, of course, the ally Here, there's only really one choice, and that's of course the Ernie, because of the physical damage and the light, which has the most light and most physical damage percentage. You can again go for the one from the star chart that has the same, but also has some cooldown reduction. But I would just go for this one, the Ernie, because it's just so much easier to get. It's really easy to get compared to the star chart one, and you really don't want the cooldown reduction. You can if you want to be like some kind of, you know, support, but again, it's not gonna be amazing. I keep saying that, but I do want to keep the option open. I don't want to close any doors on anybody that's like, I want to be that support, and it's like, you can be the support if you want to, but you need it to have it. So, but also talking about the allies. Again, Ernie is one of the best ones you can get. Also, the protective shield is pretty nice as a as an ally, as a melee character. It's pretty nice to have that protective shield. Talking about shield and using the unwielding emblem, let's talk about the martial afterwards, but let's talk about the unwielding. So every time I do use a charge, I use the death defying. So every time I was supposed to die, I live, right? You can't run out of charges, but basically it prevents you from dying, right? So that's really nice. But the thing is, why are you using the unwielding? You know, because that gives you a invulnerability shield. You also get one, of course, from Ernie. But the invulnerability shield, it's not the same thing. This is just a protective shield, so it basically has a number. Basically, how it works is that it has a number, like let's say 10,000. So when you take 10,000 damage, that shield is gone. But you can get this shield like just whenever an enemy dies, right? This one is only when I use the flask or my flask charge gets used. But this gives me invulnerability, so it doesn't matter how much, I can't remember how much the time is. I think it's a couple of seconds, or maybe like even only 1 second. So it's very little duration on it, and there's no chance of, getting more of it or whatever. But the thing is with the unwielding is that it gives that invulnerability shield, and then it doesn't use up your flash charges as much because, when you basically, the death defying veil is going to proc every time you die. So if you die on every single hit, it's just going to use up your flash charges pretty quick. But basically, if the enemy hits you with the shield up, you're not going to take any damage. So the next hit the enemy does usually is in the duration of the emblem. Of course, if the enemy hits very slow, of course, that's not going to work. But usually enemies hit as fast as, it will take one of the hits, and it's gonna just negate all the damage. So that's really nice for not using up all your flash charges. But there's definitely other choices you could do as well. I really like the bountiful one because it has a chance of not consuming a charge, and that works with self-use. And when I mean self-use, it's been like when I use my flask myself to proc, my martial emblem. But also when it procs itself, it also is gonna have a chance of not consuming a charge. And when you have 24 charges, it's just very cool to have so as well. But for many melee classes, I feel like, the protective shield is just awesome to not use up all your charges. It's more of a lazy kind of way when you're farming. It doesn't benefit very much on bosses and stuff like that. But you can also go with the Sure Strike that gives you 20% extra critical hit for 10 seconds. So you can 10 seconds is a very long time in Trove, basically. So you can have this up, but if you are over 80% critical hit, it's not going to benefit you as much as you go up towards that 100%. Of course, at exactly 80%, you're going to have that 100%, so that's very nice. But it's not going to benefit you a lot when you are over that 80%. There's also some of the allies ones you can use. I wouldn't use the Berserking because you can't use any abilities, but if you're only doing, melee attacks, it will kind of be cool. But some of the allies can be used as well. You also got the Chronomantic Cubesy that reduces the cooldown, so that's the one you can go. There's a cooldown reduction ally, and there's also cooldown reduction, emblem. And yes, the cooldown reduction ally gives you a little bit, but it's really the Chronomantic Cubesy here, the Chronomantic emblem that really gives you the most cooldown reduction. So again, I wouldn't go in cooldown. I keep saying that, but you shouldn't go as well. There's Trailblazing as well if you want to do that one. Trailblazing gives you jump boost and movement speed. Actually, a lot of movement speed. A nice amount for Trove, at least. A good amount for Trove. standards, basically, for movement speed. So you can use this one as well if you are farming, and like I said, this is mostly a farming class as well. Now let's talk about the martial emblem. The martial emblem we got right here. We got, of course, got the arcane and the martial as well. We can put it up here. You can see a little bit better. And these, of course, is from the store, but it costs in-game currency, so don't worry, it's not something you have to spend your real money on. You just have to play the game and then buy these two, and they're super OP for the, of course, magic damage user and the physical damage users. For 3 seconds is also quite a long time in Trove. Not as long as the 10 seconds we had before, but it's definitely, this is like 1 second and this is like 3. So it's like, yeah, 3 times better, right? That's what would you say, right? But the 250% more physical damage is absolutely insane. I think we can actually just have a little bit of fun here to see how much I'm actually using. You can see I get over a 1 million physical damage when I pop this one. I have over 1 million physical damage to have this one, and that's not even proccing all the other things that can proc as well. So that's just using my potion here as well. So that's pretty awesome to do so as well. So you can really use whatever you want to. Lastly, we are going to talk about, of course, our gems, and as I talked before, as I said before, I mean. We need the scoop and gloop. The scoop and gloop is basically what you want here. You want physical damage, critical hit, and critical damage on your gems. And depending on, like, I should go away from all this critical hit. I should turn it into like, max health percentage or a flat max health to put it in that, just to be a little more tanky. I really don't want to, because I could, but I don't want to. It doesn't matter too much. I don't want to min-max my candy barb. That's for my main, my Dracolite, to be so as well. But as you can see, all my gems has physical damage and critical damage, and then physical damage as well. I do want to say that for the cosmic ones, you cannot get, you can only get, your physical damage and light, and those cannot be, well, it can be changed on the empowered one. You can get that one on the empowered one. That can't be changed, the physical damage to be magic damage, but the light cannot be changed on your cosmic ones. And if it's newer gems like the ones I have here, you can see it has that Freons, so, and magic ones are called arcane. But I have some older ones. You can see these are just called fire ones. And that's because there's older gems, and these can actually be changed into magic damage if I wanted to. Of course, I don't want to do that because it's not a physical damage character, but if it has this name, it can not change it all. So the only thing you can change on your cosmic ones is the critical hit on this one. I actually want to go away from this critical hit. I actually want to show you this one instead, because this is what you want. You want physical damage, light, and critical damage. Because again, you cannot change the light, you cannot change the physical damage, but we also want as much light as we can. Whenever we can get some light, we want to get light. So if I could get triple light, I would almost get it, but I would go away from the physical damage, so I wouldn't get that. But I would, in some cases, take the light over the the critical damage. I would 100% do that. So this is what you want your gems to look like. So let's talk about which ones you should get, though, as which ones you can get, basically. The class gem is absolutely amazing, so get that one. You could also go with some other ones for sure, if you really don't like the class gem, but usually people expect you to have this one, so I would just get this one. If it's your main, you could play around with some other ones if you feel so, but you want to get the class gem, that's for sure. It's not I don't want to say ever that something is mandatory in Trove for anybody. Because people get discouraged when I say something is mandatory. It's like, I can't get that. It's like, but then use something else. It's okay. It's okay. It doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. You will still have a lot of fun. Just have fun, right? But I'm just giving suggestions here. So that is the class gem. And something else you can use as well is the mojo. You can also use the explosive. But the explosive is absolutely the best of the best. A second one could be, I'm using the mojo, but it's mostly because it does the ring thing, and then that reduces their movement speed. So if they hit me and run away, for example, or some other things hit me, and sometimes there's also ranged monsters, right? So if like the big guy hits me, it makes the ring, which also hits the sometimes, not always, it's not a guarantee, but it usually hits the ranged monsters as well, so they get reduced movement speed. So when I do defeat the big boss, the other ones are moving because they are basically moving and shooting. So I can keep up with them a little bit faster, get to them a little bit faster, and just hit them really hard. But you can also go with the pyro disc. Pyro disc is a better choice for this one if you want to do so. This is more of a, I wouldn't call it a meme in that sense, but it's more of a, hey, if I don't hit him, it doesn't work at all. But the pyro disc is always going to give you that movement speed and also that damage around it. It's not a big damage from the pyro disc. It's not because of the damage. It's because of the movement speed. And yeah, you want movement speed, but it only works when you defeat something. It has a chance of proccing. It is a very high percentage proc chance, but yeah. So I would go with the explosive and then go with the pyro disc if it was me. For the cosmic one, the barrier is not a bad choice per se, but you either want to go vampiric or you want to go battle berserker. And the battle berserker is absolutely the best because vampiric, yes, you do get health regen, health leech. What is it called? Health back when you are defeating things. You are getting, life back when you use the vampiric one. So if you have a vampiric, that's cool. That's awesome. But barrier is actually not a terrible choice. You want to get. It can be quite nice. So maybe the barrier is something if you don't have whatever. You shouldn't hold out on playing the candy barb. If you only like rocking the barrier can be quite nice. So don't sleep on the barrier. That's what I'm trying to say. But if you really want something, it is the battle berserker. Battle berserker is number one, and then vampiric and barrier is kind of like second place. Depending on how much energy regen you have and such. The barrier gets better because you can keep up your spin and heal from that. But if you don't have a lot of it, if you went completely away from energy regen and you don't have any dragons, the vampiric can keep you alive and so on and so on. So just keep that in mind when you are going. So again, battler number one, barrier, and vampiric is like number two, right? So again, class gem, explosive, and then battler, and then pyro disc as well for your gems. So basically that's how you are going to build your candy barb, of course with a lot of physical damage and of course a lot of critical damage as well. So we talked about before. So again, also the food is the free range. That's just the easiest, but there could be fish food out there that's pretty cool as well. Again, I'm pretty sure I talked about subclasses, but you can go with any subclass you want. I'm pretty sure I talked about these subclasses, but I just want to mention it one more time if I didn't. And of course we need the knight. That's very nice. You can also go with the Lunar Lancer if you want to use that one, but I always say to people, again, use the class or the subclass you have that has the most levels or the most power rank. If it's like, for example, the Knight versus the Ice Age, then you can basically, if that has, like, let's say these two, or the Knight and the Ice Age is level 30, they have 30k power rank as well. Then you can go with either one of them, but then you basically want to look for, like says this has 750 magic damage. Also the shield that it gives you extra movement speed, but magic damage, it does give you attack speed, which also does help, but the magic damage really there. So I would rather go for some faster running around, but I actually want to go with the flash charges. That would also be a lot better, but the Lunar Lancer is a very great choice as well. Knight is only mostly because of the flash charges, but if you're farming, you're really not going to run out of flash charges depending on what you want to do. But it also has some damage reduction on the Lunar Lancer. That's really nice, and also the physical damage is a very nice. But you can go with anything you basically want right here. There is some of them that is not super great. For example, flying speed, not too much. Also reduced cooldown time by 7%. This is the Dracolite. That's not too super. The Solarian is very nice as well because of the light, right? And also the damage over time is actually pretty nice as well. But the Solarian is not super easy to come by, so don't really recommend that much. And of course, the this one down here, I think this is the Revenant. Yes, this is the Revenant. It gives you 60% more max health. And since we're using Death Defying, if you're not using Death Defying, it could be something you want to look into, but you are going to lose a lot of defensive stats to go into this one, and also going away from the Death Defying. So yeah, again, Tomb Raiser has maybe some critical hit you're missing, and that's basically the jumps if you want to do that.
Bard has the critical damage. This is not enough critical damage compared to what the Bard cost. So yeah, just would go with the Loon Lancer or the Knight or whatever you have unlocked. It doesn't have the biggest of impacts when you are playing the game. So yeah, I think I covered every single thing there is about the Knight. If I missed something, I'm very, very sorry. I am a little sick, as I said, and my head is a little bit all over the place. So that's why I didn't remember if I talked about the subclasses. But I'm pretty sure I did it now. So if I did it twice, I'm very sorry, guys. But yeah, we are now going to move over and talk about the star chart for a physical damage character.
Alright, so now we got the physical damage part. I don't know if you saw the magic damage one, but the physical damage one looks very much like the magic damage part, because this over here you got, of course, still the critical damage, which there's a lot of great notes over here. You do have to spend 1 point right here, which gives some magic damage to get into here, which I think is a little silly, but that's just basically how it is. But there's a lot of great physical damage notes going through up here. There is a little bit of a note out here. I was kind of debating with myself if I should get out here, because it is a lot of points again going out here. But it does give you 5% magic damage and physical damage. But yeah, it's not super great out here. And that's the same thing if you saw the magic damage part. The green ones means that they're okay notes out here, but you really don't want to go for them, because you can see there's many notes going in there, so it's not really necessary. You can see the other ones, the red ones are sort of like more clumped together, which means that they're just really, really great. And my idea with this was that you go through the magic damage part and then, or critical damage part, and then you can go for the physical damage part first, and then of course the the critical damage part, and then you can go either this way or this way down here. So these sort of the things I would definitely go for a physical damage character. Go through the physical damage, critical damage, and then out here with the light, there's a little bit of good light notes out here. Again, also kind of a nice note here. You don't have to go very far, but it gives a little bit of critical damage. But other than that, you don't want to go further through this. There's some nice flask notes, but yeah, flask is not like a permanent. I just feel like the permanent buffs are just a little bit better, because it's going to give you all the time. So if you don't have any flash charges, it's not going to give you the same. So I'd rather go for some hard facts or hard stats, if you can say it like that. So yeah, this is the physical damage part. Again, you can pause the video if you want to see which ones you want to go for. Again, it's just my opinion on which ones you should at least be aware of. That's it for the video. Click the video on screen that's coming up right now. YouTube thinks you might like it. Also, check out the description for all my ultimate guides that goes into more specific things in Trove. And also hit that like button, would help me out very, very much. Also consider subscribing. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.